Hello everyone and welcome back to another AFK Journey video. In this video we're going to be going over the updated Prydwen PVP tier list and then the Dream Realm tier list after that. And because now they have added Hodgkin onto it, and unfortunately, as you can tell, he is not anywhere towards the top. And we're gonna cover him, but first we'll briefly go through the other heroes and mention their use in the current meta. So for the damage dealers, they have Diurnal, Lily May, and Vala. Definitely Lily May is very dominant. Basically everyone is running Lily May in one of their Supreme Arena defenses and on offense. And Diurnal, for people who have built him up, along with Dunlinger, Diurnal is a very strong Supreme Arena defense and offense. And it's difficult to counter it. Honestly, maulers are pretty much the only way to deal with it. And if you have like high investment into Diurnal, it is difficult for people to beat. So Diurnal is deserving of top tier. Vala though, although you do not see her that much in the top ranks of Supreme Arena. Even this week, I opted for a team which didn't use Vala, and it actually ended up doing better for me. She can be good with the Lightbearer buff tiles, or she can be good. I've used her with the Mauler buff tiles, but overall, not really the top tier hero for this season. And like, if we look down at the S tier for damage dealers, Lenya has kind of become more meta than Vala, in my opinion. Definitely in Supreme Arena on the Mauler buff tiles, Lenya is a much bigger threat, and so I would actually move Lenya up or move Vala down to the S tier. For the other damages in the S tier, before we move on to the different classes, Elsa is fine. I mean, she's good to enable the Mauler buff tiles, but and she can be good on the Mauler buff tile herself, dealing quite a good amount of damage along with like Alamus. She can be good. And she can be good if you have other forms of crowd control in the team. So I think, yeah, Elsa is pretty deserving of the S tier. Odie as well has been good in this season. Even on the Mauler buff tiles, I've recently been running him in my Supreme Arena defense. And with the resonating spell, he can kill enemies really quickly. And is a really good, like, sort of free-to-play team that you can build that does well in Supreme Arena defense. So Odie is good this season. And Arden is not great. That is kind of the problem, because the Iron teams with Arden have become a lot weaker due to the fact that Maulers are just a lot stronger and can easily shred through the wilder Iron nuke teams. So Arden, I mean, for this season is not really up to the S tier, in my opinion. Burial, of course, he's like, if you invest into him, you can run him into a lot of in a lot of different teams, or allows you to run Hypogean Celestials by being a third Hypogean Celestial for your team. So Burial is good. For the specialists, they have Scarlita, which I think definitely she's a top tier hero. She can fit into pretty much any Supreme Arena defense. Tassi, yeah, in this season, and it's gonna get crazier when her blast charms come out to give her more ultimate power. Then her hypnotization duration will change from 3.5 all the way up to 6 seconds, which is a huge buff. And she's good in the Mauler buff tiles, and she's good in Lightbearer buff tiles. She's really good in this season, and so maybe she is deserving of the S plus tier for this season. For the S tier, they have Carolina, and the thing is, Carolina has fallen out of the meta again because she mainly worked with the Iron team. If you don't have like that massive crowd control, then she's just not a great option. And so Carolina, Iron, they've fallen out of the meta in Supreme Arena and Supreme Arena defenses. So I think they would go even below the S tier. Shakira is top tier. He's good with the Mauler buff tiles, and he's good even off of them. Sinbad is not great. Like, he's not seen that much, not really on defense. And on offense, he can be fine, but I don't consider him like a top tier pick. And Talene is good. Talene is good. I've seen her effectively in the Hypogean Celestial team. That's probably her best team for Supreme Arena, but she's also good with Mauler buff tiles. Like, not on the Mauler buff tile, but along with that team. A Mauler hero, she can be good. So Talene is an overall solid hero. I think Talene and Shakira are deserving the S tier, maybe above that. And Scarlett and Tassi, I guess, S plus tier. But the other ones, Iron, Carolina, Sinbad, I think could be moved down. And for the damage dealers, like we said, Arden, I think could be moved down. And Vala should be moved down as well, because they're just not as dominant as the other heroes we see here. Now for the supports, Damien is a top tier support because he provides haste and healing. You can fit him into pretty much any team. And Haven is a great stall healer, so she's good for that, but it's really only for stall that you would use her. You can use her in the Lightbearer Tassi team as well. People do that. But I don't know if I would actually consider her an S plus tier hero anymore. Damien, I think, definitely is, but I don't know about Haywin. And Coco is really competitive, to be honest. Rainier in this season is good because of the fact that you can always get value by position swapping a buff tile hero, and he gives a high attack percent charm bonus for the first 45 seconds. Rainier is a really good hero for Supreme Arena, even defense this season, so I consider him S+ tier. But Coco maybe needs to go up because Coco is so good with maulers, and that damage reduction can win you a game outright. Rowan is good for energy boosting and good for the light bearer comp of like light bearers with Tassi or Vala, so he's good, but he's not, yeah, S+ tier. I think S tier is good where he belongs. For the tank, Thorin, really top tier tank with the multiple lies and damage effect for the kill threat. And for the S tier tanks, they have Dunlinger, Granny, Frestro. Frestro, I think, honestly, might even go up a tier to the S+ tier. He's really good in PvP. Like, 2 heroes for the price of 1. A lot of tankiness. It allows you to, like, control the Honor Arena with Mikola. I really think Frestro is a top tier PvP hero. Not only just for endless Dream Run bosses. Dunlinger, I don't know if I would put in the S tier. Like, the thing is, no one runs an effective comp with him other than with Diurnal. I haven't seen people run Dunlinger on defense other than Diurnal. And so that's kind of a problem because it really is only one comp where he's used in. Maybe there are other ways and you can use him to shut down enemies from casting their ultimates, like as a support hero, like in also the special tile energy map for a regular arena map 5. Dunlinger can shut down those energy tile teams like Tassi, Talene. So I guess that's another good use for him. But I don't know if I would put him in the S tier just for that. And Almas is the thing with him. Yeah, and honestly, I think maybe he does belong in the S tier because he doesn't do well with the Iron team in this season because there's so many ways of becoming unaffected. But he does well with Elsa and Soren and other heroes to have like knockdown effects. Dumont, Almas like basically synergizes with a lot of different teams. And of course, he has like, it's difficult to kill him because when he's about to die, he jumps back to the back line and basically becomes a caster. So I think, yeah, maybe he belongs in the S tier. Now moving down to the other heroes here. And now you're going to see Hodgkin, the first look at Hodgkin in the B tier. But we'll get to him. So for the A tier heroes, we'll briefly cover them. Yeah, so Seth with Maulers this season has been a pretty strong option, especially on offense. Soren with Maulers is really good. Nara I do not think is that great. People have not used Nara effectively, and a lot of people are wanting to use their swap tickets on Nara for some other hero. The support heroes, Mikola is good with the Mauler team, and Smokey, although generally is not great for PvP, in this season on the Mauler buff trials is actually a pretty good option. Ludovic is just a solid healer, like, but he is not used that much in top performing teams. He's kind of like a backup hero if you don't have other healers available for your team. And then you have Lucius, Luca, Brutus. Brutus is used a lot for the Mauler buff tiles. The other heroes, Lucius can be used in the Lightbearer buff tile team, like with Tassi. And Luca is like kind of like an improvement of Lucius. He's more tanky than Lucius, but Lucius has more utility for your team with the shielding. Parissa can be a good nuker damage dealer. If you don't have other heroes built. Igor, I'm not a big fan of, to be honest. Igor and Nara, I'm not a great, CCI, I'm not a big fan of these heroes. I think Viperion is even better than all 3 of them, especially along with Ludovic or powerful healing. Viperion can hit hard, and also he has unaffected things in his kit, which is powerful. Floribel is good for like stall strategies, summon with all the summons. Brian was mainly only used to counter Lily May interruptions, and he's not really used on defense anymore. And Sylvina is a good offense option. So that's basically the A tier heroes. The B tier heroes, Reese can be good with Maulers. He's a strong, hard-hitting damage dealer. The other ones, Merrily Salas, are not great to use in Arena or Supreme Arena. Okay, so the 2 interesting choices or heroes which are put in the B tier for the specialists. One is Hodgkin, was Temesia. So Temesia is pretty good in the Lightbearer team comp with the to enable Lightbearer buff tiles. Hodgkin, unfortunately, has not been great. This is the sad truth about Hodgkin. His kit seemed like it had a lot of potential, but the one thing which I didn't understand until now is the fact that him being immune, in his ethereal state, he's immune to physical damage. I thought that would mean he would be immune to Diurnal's true damage as well, because Diurnal is a physical damage dealer. But it seems like true damage is still going to apply onto Hodgkin. He's only immune to physical damage that is not true damage. So basically only reducible physical damage. And that's a problem because even if you can get almost permanent uptime of that ability, a magic damage dealer is going to shred through him. A true damage dealer is going to shred through him. He takes a long time to charge up his ultimate. He doesn't have any other forms of survivability in his kit, like Tassi, for example. Like, Tassi also takes a long time to charge her ultimate, but she has two free invincibilities, basically, when before she goes down. And with kills, she can even refresh and get more procs of invincibility. Hodgkin doesn't have anything like that. He has like that minor healing per second in the ethereal state and immunity to physical damage, but that isn't enough because true damage nukes through him. And so, like, I think the only way of saving him would have been to make him immune to all damage sources other than true damage, so true damage could still hit him. But even then, it would be problematic. Like Diurnal, even Lily May, true damage can shred through him, but there's just too many ways of dealing enough damage to kill the Hodgkin before he can even cast his ultimate. And his whole kit is based around his ultimate applying the Voidbound magic onto allies and opponents and also hitting pretty hard. So that's the problem with Hodgkin. Overall, he is, a low tier hero. And I don't know if I would put him in the B tier. I would put him probably around with Nara, but basically it's a hero which is totally passable. Purely PvP hero. No one has figured out a good use of him in PvP yet. He seems underwhelming. And so, totally passable hero. And if you have recruited for him, he is a potential swap ticket choice that you want to think about. And really, we're probably only going to get one more S level hero in the season, which I believe is going to be Sonya. That is the most likely, and so we're going to have to see how her kit is. She probably will also be a PvP hero based on what we know so far, her being a Lightbearer warrior. But it might be better than Hodgkin, so it might be like a swap ticket candidate for you. But yeah, I like, honestly, even Nara, like if I had Nara and Hodgkin both built on my account, I would kind of prefer to keep the Nara because I feel like she could have some uses in like bosses in the future, and maybe even some different PvP modes, especially like Clash fronts. She would have been good, and also on offense she can be fine. So yeah, the Hodgkin has been underwhelming. Unfortunately, not a great hero. But if you recruited for him, at least you can swap him out for hopefully Sonya, and you won't have to recruit for Sonya. Or you can just get more copies of Sonya for Paragon or something. Okay, so here we have Smokey and Miraki. Smokey and Miraki, like we said, I think he's pretty good this season because of the Molar buff tiles. But other than that, he wasn't a great or top tier PvP hero because he usually got left in the dust. He would be left in the back while your heroes run up to the front, and then he's not able to buff everyone or heal everyone and doesn't get his value. But on the Molar buff tiles, it completely solves the problem. So I like him this season a lot, and I think he's an A tier for this season. And Lumont as well, I think for this season, definitely deserves above a C tier. In the Molar buff tile teams, he can be up to an A tier. He's used like in that Tassi team that we showed, Tassi Lumont, with both of them on the Molar buff tiles, Resonating Spell and Tassi. That alone is enough to kill some hard-hitting Dunlinger diagonal enemy teams. And so Lumont has a really good use for that. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the PvP tier list. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on all of these PvP heroes. If you think anything belongs in a different position, let me know. But let's move over to the Dream Realm. So for the Dream Realm, I mean, I'm not expecting any changes here, but one thing I need to highlight is Ludovic. Ludovic needs to move up, in my opinion, in the Dream Realm rankings. He should move up to the S tier, not the S plus tier, but definitely to the S tier. And because right now, in the Endless Boss metagame, he's involved in two of the top performing teams, Orson, overall top scoring team, and also the King Croaker, overall top scoring team. He has high HP per second damage, which makes him not only a healer, but a high damage output for endless bosses. And when we get his charms, which will give him skill power, his HP per second damage from his active of his skill 1 is going to be doubling in the cap, doubling basically in the damage output. And so I'm really thinking Ludovic is going to become even more meta than he already is once the charms come out for Dream Realm endless bosses. And that is a big portion of Dream Realm. Like usually 2.5 to 3 months of the whole season is going to be when you're fighting endless bosses, and only the first 1 to 1.5 months is when you're fighting pre-endless bosses. So Ludovic, I think, belongs in the S tier. The other heroes here I totally agree with. Maybe Lenya doesn't belong in the S tier because she's not really needed for anything, like before getting to endless bosses, she can be in some of the best teams, her and Sinbad together, but I think they should both go down to the A tier because it's really just Odie, definitely an S tier hero. And he's not good for endless bosses, but before getting to endless, he's a pretty good option. Taylene, you know, I would put her in the S plus tier because of the fact that she is not great in Endless, only used in 3 of the 8 different teams, but that's still pretty good. And before getting to Endless, she's like the top hero in almost all of the teams. And when we get her charms coming out, that will give her ultimate power and attack, I think she might even be incorporated into 4, maybe potentially of the 8 different Dream Realm boss teams. So Taylene should move up to the S plus tier. Shakira is a great hero, really good in endless bosses, using 3 out of the 8 top performing teams right now. With his charms, he's going to become even more insane, increasing the attack buff he provides to your allies. And so really for this season, with the charms included, talking about endless teams, Taylene, Shakira are both going to be in S plus tier. You're going to see how crazy they're going to become. And Ludovic, I think definitely S tier. We'll have to see. Maybe even S plus tier. Rainier, Mikola, Smokey. Smokey and Mikola are always solid, always amazing. And with their charms, they're going to become even crazier. They're going to have a higher attack buff for your team. Rainier doesn't benefit from the charms pretty much at all. And so that's going to be one thing to keep an eye on. He might be replacing some teams for the other heroes who are getting massive boosts to their charms. Fresser doesn't benefit greatly from his charms, but he's still such a hard-hitting HP per second damage dealer. I find it really difficult to believe that he's going to be replaced. And then he's also 2 bodies for Shakir to power up the attack buff Shakir is providing, which is important. Thorn is not using endless bosses, but before getting to endless, he's a good option. And if you're don't have Freyester yet, or like you're more of a, have free to play teams you're running, then Thorn is a good option. Even in endless can be used. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the top performing Dream Realm heroes. When we look down the list here, I find this really strange that Marilee and Corin are in the A tier along with things like Brian. Well, I mean, Brian was and Reese. So I think Corin and Marilee need to move up to the S tier along with like Kruger, Coco, Lenya, Thorin. All these heroes are basically really good Dream Realm heroes, really good before getting to endless bosses, and even in endless bosses, if you don't have the top tier options, these are your next best go-to things. Marilee, Corin, Coco, Thorin, Lenya, all these heroes should be in the S tier in my opinion. Kruger. Scarlita, Tamis is really only using Necro Draken, so she can remain in the A tier. Scarlita is not used in any Dream Realm optimal teams this season, so yeah, she should remain in the A tier. Sinbad, I mean, along with Lenya, kind of can be used if you have them highly invested, but yeah, I mean, arguable he could be in the A tier or the S tier. Vala, Floribel, kind of all similar. They can be fine in Dream Realm, but they're not top options. So Corin and Marilee need to be up to the S tier. I think I would move Lenya down to the A tier with Sinbad, and I would keep Kruger, Coco, Thorin here, and I would probably even move Odie up to the S plus tier, even though he's not, and like Taylene Shakir to the S plus tier, because even though Odie is not for endless bosses, he's so important before that, and he's a great option. And if you're like you're a free to play player, you can use Odie even in endless bosses, but he's not the greatest, so maybe he could stay in the S tier. Okay. And then we have the other heroes. Hodgkin, for some reason, is in the B tier for the Dream Realm, which, I mean, like, I guess all of these heroes are kind of like you would never use them in Dream Realm, but they're AoE damage dealers, so I guess if Plague Creeper comes out to the boss rotation, because he was a Primal Lord this season, then maybe Hodgkin could have some place, because they're going to be multiple summons. Hodgkin can get value of killing them with his ultimate, but again, I think the issue is really the fact that he charges his ultimate too slow. I don't know what it is. It seems like some heroes just have a really slow charge rate of their ultimate compared to others. Yeah, but that's pretty much it for the key heroes for the Dream Realm bosses. Like we've mentioned before, Sylvina sometimes can be used in Lone Gaze as a great option. So it's so she doesn't technically belong in the C tier. She has that one use. And Elsa, why is Elsa in the B tier? Elsa needs to be, I've almost forgot about that. Elsa needs to be up to the S tier, to be honest. She's in one of the top performing endless teams, which is Orison. And you can even use her as a decent option in Crystal Beal as a damage dealer for people who don't have the best heroes built up. So Elsa does not belong in the B tier. Like minimum A tier, and like, yeah, I'd say A tier. Elsa, Sinbad, Lenya, those type of heroes I put in the A tier. Floribel, Vala, things like that. And Tamesia. And then the other heroes can just move down. Like Reese can move down, Cassidy can move down. They're just not the top options ever for right now. Although there are like primal lords and maybe future bosses where Cassidy could be good and things like that. But anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it was helpful. Let me know your thoughts about both the Dream Realm tier list and the PvP tier list. If you agree or disagree, you can let me know. But thanks for watching this video. I'll hopefully see you guys in the next video. And until then, everyone, peace out for now, and thank you for watching.